obviously, there's quite a lot going on in Cheshire Masonically in 2025.
Yeah.
It's named after Dr. William Preston. From his point of view, the meaning behind it all and why we did certain things. But it was properly revived in 1924, so 100 years ago. And is really the foremost Masonic historian of our day. It's still a 300th birthday, and we're still the first.
Hi everybody, and welcome to this special interview where I'm delighted today to be joined by our very own Deputy Provincial Grand Master, Simon Medland. Hi Simon, how are you?
I'm very well, thanks. Lovely to be with you all.
And lovely to be with you as well, and thank you for taking the time to chat today. Now, at Quarterly Communications, an announcement was made that the board have appointed a certain Deputy Provincial Grand Master of Cheshire, a certain Simon Medland, which would be yourself, as the Prestonian Lecturer for 2025. Could I be the first to congratulate you?
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Now, thank you for taking the time to talk to us about that today. I'm sure many of our members won't know too much about it. I certainly don't, so I'm very much looking forward to our conversation. So what is the Prestonian Lecture and what's the history behind it?
Well, it's the only official lecture series that Grand Lodge puts on. Of course, it's not the only lecture series, but it's the only official one. And it's named after Dr. William Preston, who lived from 1742 to 1818. He was an Edinburgh man, a printer, a scholar, and a very keen Freemason, a member of the Lodge of Antiquity. And he began a series of public Masonic lectures, which led to his book, Illustrations of Masonry, which was really the first codification, as it were, of ritual, and it explained from his point of view the meaning behind it all and why we did certain things. And it became immensely well known, and he became a very prominent figure. Later on, for a period, he became a rather controversial figure because of his behavior in the Lodge of Antiquity. But we won't bother with all that now. And when he died, he left a sum of money, I think £300, quite a lot in those days, to found a lecture series in his memory to perpetuate his method of teaching. And so it went on from then until I think about the 1860s, an annual lecture, and then it rather lapsed away. But it was properly revived in 1924, so 100 years ago. But for the war years, there's been a lecture every year. And I'm going to be the lecturer for 2025, which is terrific because, of course, it chimes with our Tercentenary year.
Which is fabulous, and we'll catch up in a second about its content. But I'm kind of interested to know the process, really. Obviously, you know a great deal about the history. How do you? I assume you put forward a paper, do you? Is it a review?
Yeah, I suppose you express an interest conversationally amongst people who might be in a position to assist you to do it if you're chosen. I spoke briefly to Tony Harvey, who's was Prestonian Lecturer a few years ago, one evening when I met him at Christleton. And then another occasion at Stockport, I was sitting next to Dr. Rick Berman, who is, in fact, this year's Prestonian Lecturer and is really the foremost Masonic historian of our day. And we struck up a very good conversation. He's a very easy person to get on with. And I mentioned an interest that I had in it, and we spoke a bit more, and then that led to a few emails and so on and so forth. And really, it all culminates then in putting forward effectively an application together with the other people who are applying to do it. And it's considered by the board, and they ended up, wisely or unwisely, we shall find out, picking me.
And are there presumably multiple entries every year?
Yeah, I think so. I guess it probably depends year by year, but I'm pretty sure there are several at least. It's quite a daunting thing to do. It has to be, very, very good because it's affixed to the name of Grand Lodge and it's public and official. And I know that when I do it, I will be scrutinized by some really eminent Masonic historians from Quatuor Coronati Lodge and so on and so forth. And so you've got to get it right, and you've got to do a proper job. So that what they really want, as expressed to me by Rick Berman, was they want a sort of academic thesis by way of the paper itself, and then what they really like is a sort of a sort of fluent presentation of that. So they don't want someone to go along and give a very dry Masonic history lecture because that's not an awful lot of fun. What they want is a development of the themes and an ability to convey it in an engaging fashion to the audience.
So have you had to kind of do a dry run? Is the kind of pitch evaluated on that kind of a dry run as well?
Yeah, there's no oral presentation or anything. You put forward, well, I don't know what they normally call it. I called it, when I was putting forward to the board, I called it a trailer. And I ran that past Rick Berman a few times and took on board his observations of it. Because as I said, I mean, he is certainly, to my humble opinion, in my humble opinion, he is the preeminent Masonic historian today. He's a remarkably well-informed man and a very proper historian indeed.
I think I've lost you there.
Oh.
Yeah, I think you've, sorry, I just lost you for a split second there.
Oh.
So sorry, you're back. So obviously a big honour for you, a huge honour in terms of being selected from the entries put forward, and obviously indeed for the province of Cheshire, as you say, in our tercentenary year, which is fabulous.
Yeah.
I know that the members will give you their full support. So will you be touring the country, or do you take the lecture abroad, or how does it work?
Well, who knows? As I said, that there are 4 official deliveries of the lecture each year, and those are decided by Grand Lodge on application by lodges who want to host an official delivery. And when they're looking at those applications, they like to see lodges that can provide a big enough audience to a wide enough cross-section of members in a decent place that is honourable to the status of the lecture series. Nothing to do with the lecturer himself, but the lecture series is regarded as being a big ticket item by Grand Lodge. They hold it in high esteem, and so they want to ensure that it's done properly. Aside from those 4 official deliveries, I mean, you can deliver it as often as you want, and because within the constitution of Grand Lodge there are lodges overseas, then there comes with it the possibility that one might be invited to, I don't know, Bermuda or somewhere like that. I shall have to put up with it if I do. Take one for the team, as you fully appreciate, Nigel. And Mrs. Medland was very interested indeed at the thought that we might be going to Bermuda or somewhere like that.
Well, I'm just thinking as the PCO from Cheshire, it'll probably need some press coverage as well, won't it?
Yeah, all of which can be done remotely nowadays, Nigel.
Forgot about that. But okay, so that sounds fascinating, really. And I guess so reading between the lines, there will be 4 big presentations, and then there will be others if lodges wish to, or if somebody feels they want. Yeah.
Well, I know that, having spoken to Oliver Coddington, who is one of the deputy grand secretaries and is in charge of this particular thing, and indeed helping us enormously with the tercentenary, I might add. But he has said that he's had several applications already for one of the official deliveries, and I know that Cheshire Provincial Grand Stewards Lodge is looking at putting in an application, possibly with a view to having an official delivery at Hume Hall, because he needs somewhere that's big enough to attract an audience that's commensurate with the reputation of the lecture.
Yeah, he's a bit quick, that Steve Jones, isn't he, with things like that. So I was going to
Yeah,
put Tom's Lodge forward, but he sneaked in already.
I
That's
think he may have done. I think he may have done.
no problem. Now, let's get to the important bit then. And I don't know how much you are happy to share about this or tell us about. I understand the title is Our Friends in the North, which it's followed by a reflection of the growth of Freemasonry from its early proto-Masonic beginnings in Cheshire, and nearby provinces.
Yeah.
So are you happy to?
Indeed. So I need to say I nicked the title "Our Friends in the North," of course, from Charles Dickens, but it seemed appropriate because whether the fact of the matter is that Cheshire was the first province, and provincial Freemasonry is by far and away the biggest part of Freemasonry in terms of numbers. And it's a very important part of the overall Masonic offering. So it struck me as being interesting to see how it began and to look at the question as to why it began in Cheshire, as it did. Chester was not alone. There were plenty of other Masonic lodges in one form or another, and I will be looking at East Lancs, and I will be looking at York as well, to see how it developed in different parts of the country. So not just geographically different, but parts of the country with a different tradition. Because whereas York and Chester have some similarity, there's really no similarity to either of them in East Lancs. And yet East Lancs had Freemasonry from a very early stage, and still does today. So I think that will be interesting to look at. Also, there's lots of original documentation that I'm able to access, I know, which will help to fill out the story of how it began, and have a look at the impact that it's had on Freemasonry as a whole.
And how easy has it been to kind of research this? Because it's obviously a very in-depth subject, clearly something you're very interested in. But is the information readily available, or?
Well, in a sense, it's the work of 30 odd years, in this sense that for as it happens, I'm just interested in history, and I always have been. And I've always done history, and I've always made little presentations and written pieces and articles and so forth. And so I have learned how to do it. And when you learn how to do it, you learn where to look. And you can't always find what you want by any means, because in a lecture like this, I'll be looking back to, 1600 and something and the early 1700s. And it's very difficult finding written material from that period. And some of it was available and has then disappeared. I'm greatly helped by the number of really brilliant Masonic historians who have been around over the last 100 and odd years, and members of Quartor Coronati Lodge have for 100+ years written really learned articles with footnotes, and you can follow them all up. Quite a lot of it's online now as well. A lot of it's in dusty old books and manuscripts, which I just love getting up to my elbows in that sort of thing and trying to decipher the writing and chasing down the various leads. And it is, to me, a very interesting thing to do. So it's something I've been developing over, said, 30, 40 years or more. And I hope, I'm a bit sort of trepidatious about it, really, but I hope it goes well. I want to do a good job for the lecture series, and I want to do a good job for the province.
Well, I think everybody who knows you within the province will know you'll do a fabulous job, and it'll be extremely engaging and no doubt humorous along the way as well. I'm confident in that.
Good.
Is it a lodge? So does it take place kind of within a lodge setting, or does the lodge call off? Is it just for members, or?
That's a very good question. To be honest, I don't really know the answer. I suspect that in the official deliveries, it is within a lodge, full stop,
Yeah.
not a white table or anything like that.
Yeah.
In a non-official delivery, I don't see why it shouldn't be providing there's nothing in the content that one ought not to say. But I don't think that there is. And if it was thought of interest to people who are not Masons but who might wish to become them, or are just interested in history,
Yeah.
then that might be useful, I think.
And at the end of the year, is it published for those who couldn't attend?
Yeah, it is published. I'm a member of the QC Lodge Correspondence Circle, and I imagine it's published in that. I don't really know. And I think it's published by Grand Lodge as well. And as I said, for the written work itself, it's it's serious stuff, and they footnotes and a proper structure and all the rest of it. Serious academic rules apply. But I think for the presentation, as I said, what the last thing they want is someone just to go along there and read a dry history lecture.
Yeah.
They want something with a bit of life, a bit of oomph, Worshipful Brother Argyle.
No, it sounds fantastic, and it sounds to me, which is very interesting. It's a journey for yourself as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I hope you don't mind if I ask that perhaps we could catch up. The applications, I believe, need to be in by November, so I'm guessing you.
I think so.
Yeah, so you'll know where you are next year. So perhaps we could catch up mid 2025 to see how it's going.
Yeah. Yes, indeed, I hope so. And I just hope I'm obviously there's quite a lot going on in Cheshire Masonically in 2025.
Yeah.
And I hope that I can manage to fit it all in. But as is ever the case, if something's worth doing, it's worth putting in the effort to do it properly, isn't it? So.
And as you say, a lot of work's gone in it already, which is very, very interesting. So I know you're very busy. Thank you ever so much for taking the time today. I think we're very blessed in Cheshire to be able to have this scoop, which I'm going to call it, because it's a Cheshire Mason doing the lecture, which is fabulous, and is in our tercentenary year. One little, I know that people need to come and listen to your lecture to find out a lot more, but one little snippet I know was mentioned to me a while ago is that with our tercentenary year, we're celebrating the province of Cheshire's 300 years, not Provincial Grand Lodge of Cheshire's 300 years. An interesting clarification needed there, perhaps?
Well, it is something that some people have got rather exercised about over the years. I know that in 1924, the was he the Grand Master or the Program Master, Lord Amptill, was very precise in writing to Cheshire. Yes, you may celebrate the 200th anniversary of the province of Cheshire, but not of Provincial Grand Lodge. So there it is. Who am I to disagree with Lord Amptill? On the other hand, it's 300th birthday, and that's good enough for me, and I don't mind what people call it. Province of Cheshire or Provincial Grand Lodge, it's still a 300th birthday, and we're still the first.
And we'll have a fabulous year, I am sure.
We will.
As I say, Simon, thank you so much. Thanks for sharing such interesting information with us. And may I wish you on behalf of all members of the province a fabulous year, and look forward to catching up again. To our viewers, I hope you found that of interest. I'm sure you did. As always, if there are any subjects that you would like us to cover, anything that you hear about that you want us to chat with any individual, whether it be within the province or wider field, please do let us know. Speak to your area comms person or let us know on social media. Thank you again, Simon. Take care, everybody. Goodbye.
Goodbye.